Okay, guys, welcome back to Experiences with Experity. Girls, it's been a while. We haven't had a good chat in a really long time about something, have we? So we're focusing on employee engagement over the next couple of months here at Experity to sort of round off the year. And we thought we'd come to you with some really interesting questions and have a little discussion between us. So employee engagement is something that we believe really strongly at Experity is at the heart or should be at the heart of every successful business, small, medium, or large. So girls, when you think about employee engagement, what sort of comes to mind first? What are we thinking? Melissa, want to go first?
There's so much that comes to mind for me. I feel like a lot of people think, oh, it's how almost how productive someone is or how much work effort they put in. But for me, it's so much more than that. I almost feel like for me, engagement and trust go hand in hand. If you have that trust there, then the engagement kind of comes naturally or more naturally with it. I would go further as well to say that engagement, a lot of it comes from how connected a person is to the bigger vision or the
Mhm.
the goals or the outcomes that you want from either a project or from the company as a whole and where you want to take the company. So yeah, it's a bit of a tricky question because I'd say there's a lot of elements to it, but I would say for me they're the two biggest things that have quite a big impact and factor in engagement.
Yeah, I think I'd probably agree with that. Abby, your thoughts?
Yeah, Melissa's kind of taken the words out of my mouth a little bit there, but the two words for me that spring to mind are connection and belonging.
Yeah.
So the art of people being seen, heard, valued, and feel invested in part of something bigger than themselves. I think that's what employee engagement means to me. Um, yeah, that's probably what I would say.
It's interesting, isn't it? Because I think being on this side of a bit of a smaller business, we've almost had to create our culture here, and employee engagement is something I think we do really well.
Yeah.
And the reason I think is because we're bought into the vision of Experity. We know you're really open and transparent about where you want that vision to be, but not only that, I love having a voice and being able to, Missy, you're nodding, I assume you feel the same.
Yeah.
I love being able to give my opinion or, yeah, my thoughts and actually feel like it's going to be listened to. And it's not to say that being part of a big corporate that that's not possible. I just think it's going to be a bit trickier to gather that information, isn't it? So you've got to go through surveys, sort of making sure you're doing your yearly surveys or your quarterly surveys, however you do that, to gather that information in order to make a change or in order to understand if employees are happy.
Yeah.
Um, but belonging is something that I'd like to touch on just because was that always your vision for Experity, Abby? Did you always want people to feel like they belonged here? Because I know that's such a vague question, but can I ask why you said that? Why you said belonging?
I think because when we navigate our lives, there are so many elements of it that many people feel that they probably
Yeah.
don't belong in relationships with people, in places. And I think I've always wanted to create a space, and that might not be a physical space, that might be a metaphorical space where people feel that regardless of where they've come from, their background, their story, they belong somewhere. And
Yeah.
it's about having the shared values and vision rather than where you grew up or what school you went to or which university you had. That there's so many things that define us as people. And I wanted to create a space where everybody felt safe and felt like they could contribute and that they would feel like they could do that in that environment, really. That's probably why I've always wanted to do it. I think there's been a lot of times and instances where I felt I haven't belonged.
Yeah.
Um, and I guess it's more through partially lived experience and witnessing others experience this that has probably led me to feel that. But I also know when I have felt like I've belonged, I give so much more, I invest so much more, I'm happier, I'm more fulfilled, and in turn everything in my life then starts to improve as a result of that. So if I can create that environment for my team, then everyone's winning.
Yeah, completely.
Definitely. Yeah. I think if I think about employee engagement as a whole and like what does good look like to me, like what does exceptional look like? And to use a bit of an example, it's like a machine. The company is the machine, and every role within the company is a cog within that machine. And if one of them isn't maybe engaged with the vision or engaged with what they want, it doesn't run as smoothly. Whereas if everyone's on that same path and everyone's feeling like they're being looked after, the person that's running the machine is oiling each cog constantly to look after that employee and to support them, then all of a sudden that machine becomes smooth running. And you actually get two types of it. You get almost segregated mini machines that are the teams, and you can have a really well running team, but they're not connected to that next team. But when it's done well, it's when all of those teams come together and create that machine that runs really smoothly. But it takes maintenance, it takes action, it takes a lot of dedication from leaders, but also from employees. And you have to want it, I would say.
I think it also takes the right leaders, because some leaders can buy into a vision that says, I'm going to treat myself exactly how I treat my employees, and I'm going to advocate for my employees in the right way, and I'm going to make sure that they're heard. And I don't know if this is fair to say, but I don't think all leaders are able to do that. And I think that's possibly where you see maybe the cogs not turning so smoothly in your metaphor there. But Abby mentioned metaphoric teams, and she mentioned sort of us being online, because we're creating not necessarily a physical space all the time to feel seen, to feel heard, but we work remotely. Hello there, Barney, you're joining us for this one, are you?
He's keen on employee engagement.
You love employee engagement.
He's like, I'm engaged.
Yeah, he's super engaged. Look at that, Paul, always engaged. He's probably our most engaged employee. We talk a lot about, or we live in this space here on Teams as a team. And flexible working nowadays, hybrid working is a massive topic. Everybody's talking about it still. I think we thought that it would kind of dip off, and the conversation would kind of dip off after COVID, because it just was going to become a thing, like generally. But do you think hybrid work, how is that looking? Is that helping engagement? Have we seen examples maybe where it hasn't gone so well? Do you think there are possibly some variables that come into play there that can boost engagement or make it plummet? What are we thinking about working remotely and hybrid working in terms of employee engagement?
I would say the biggest thing that I've seen is obviously we had major shifts forward in trusting teams throughout COVID, where there kind of wasn't really another option, but we were able to prove that teams could work remotely or flexibly or in a hybrid fashion, and work still got done. So everybody's mindset shifted, and businesses for the short term really benefited from it, because they could get rid of offices, they could navigate that. And that was a real big step forward in terms of engagement, trust, productivity, and the involvement of the workplace. What's happened now is, or there's a dynamic shift within certain organizations. And as a result, a lot of initiatives are bringing people back to the office, and it's been happening now for nearly like another 2 years. So this isn't new information, but the frustration is that you've enabled employees to work remotely. They have been able to work remotely, and now you want to bring them all back. And I think it's really created a big upset in the workplace, where employees have new expectations that they can work remotely or flexibly, and they should be able to. And then the businesses are kind of going back on some of the stuff that they said. So, you know, I spoke to someone recently and they joined a role because it was remote and they were able to move back home to be with family and out of the city. So it worked really well for them, and they've been able to be with people towards the end of their life, like elderly relatives and stuff. So that part was really important. But then because a company policy was reintroduced to say you need to come back into the office, it then was completely unsustainable. They were 4 hours away from London at that point, and there wasn't actually any real need for them to be in. It was just, this is the policy now, we want to bring everybody back, and it completely disengaged that person and they left the business.
Naturally.
But we're seeing that example all of the time, and I think what's frustrating is for businesses and organizations that are bringing people back to the office because maybe they don't trust them, or because they feel productivity's dipped, or whatever the reason is, the real question is, why has that happened? What has changed? Are we hiring the right people? Are we reinforcing our culture, values, and vision? Are we setting expectations around what performance should look like? Are we setting expectations around workplace etiquette? You know, are you going to do this in your work time? Are you being respectful of being online and the hours you should be? Like, how have you set that up to be sustainable for all of your team? That would be the big thing that I think I've seen in terms of the hybrid remote stuff. It absolutely can work. You know, we are living proof that it can work. We're a remote first team. But you have to be intentional about wanting to make it work as a leader, and you have to reinforce and stand by what you've said. Totally fair if someone isn't performing, to bring them back, but the bigger question still stands. Well, this is bigger than whether they work from home or whether they work in the office. Do you know what I mean? So it's really about being purposeful around who you're bringing into the team and how you nurture and put the parameters and boundaries in place around what you expect from them, and stay true to that and stay accountable for that as a leader yourself, is what I would say on that.
Interesting. I just wanted to touch on something you said there, which was the feeling that employees will feel of not being trusted. And I think that's massive, because the moment you don't feel trusted is the moment you let go, I think. And I don't know if we've all had that in the past, or we've all felt an element of that in the past in a role or in a business or in a place where just a tiny bit of trust is not felt. Then you just automatically, without even thinking, you're disengaging. You're not sold in the vision, because you're thinking, well, everything I have done until this point, it's not recognized. And actually, Gallup's State of the Global Workplace report in 2023 and 2024 showed that 69% of employees said that they'd work harder just if they felt recognized. Isn't that crazy? Isn't a crazy statistic? Melissa, you're nodding. How do you feel about that?
Yeah, I completely agree. I think there's so much around it, and the thing that I was going to say from this whole question is communication can make or break working from home, making employees feel recognized, because I think a lot of people assume that feeling recognized is kind of saying you've done a good job. But actually, if you say that every time someone gives you a project, very often it becomes, it's like if you're in a beautiful place, like how many times do you still have the same reaction, Shiv, when you walk out and see the incredible scenery of where you live now to what you did when you first moved there? And I think it's all about that communication both ways, listening to your employees. How do they feel they should be recognised? How are they connected with the vision? But then communicating it back to them and being able to find ways to work around that, and being able to find ways to, especially with working from home, to still have your whole team connected to that vision. It's really hard because you don't have that buzz of the office. You don't have, a lot of the time, people are really siloed in their own workspaces.
Yeah.
And particularly in, say, sales teams as an example, someone would be like, if you were in an office traditionally, it'd be like, I got sale, and then everyone's all excited and we're working towards the same mission. If you're at home on your own, you're not getting that same value that doesn't mean to say that there's not ways around it. And I feel like some stuff that we do within Experity and stuff that we recommend to our clients goes a long way in helping create that team and create that connection. But communication, I think, is the biggest thing that I would say just has an impact, good and bad.
It's interesting because we're seeing so much change now. So communication is going to have to be key when we have things like AI, digital platforms, left, right, and centre, applications, left, right, and centre, that I think possibly are making or breaking roles now. So we spoke about being recognised and possibly then improving engagement or improving how someone could feel recognised. What's like one small gesture that you think wouldn't go amiss? I guess from an employee side or a leadership side, what's one small gesture do you think that would make a small difference? Because we talk about small things, big impact here at Experity all the time. What's one small thing that you feel like could make a big impact? I'm kind of putting you guys on the spot here.
No, I think this is a good question.
Yeah.
The one thing that could massively make a difference is asking questions, asking for feedback. You don't know what's going to work. You don't know how people are going to feel. You can't assume or jump to any conclusion about that. It's just one of those things where you actually need to ask. And I think a lot of employees would feel seen, heard, and valued, which was the bit we spoke about when it came to belonging. They would feel seen, heard, and part of something, valued, if they were asked the questions about how they felt about something or what they saw something looking like. It doesn't mean you necessarily have to commit to following that through. It just means that you have to have acknowledged somebody, and it then opens the opportunity for conversation to say, love those ideas, thank you for sharing your thoughts, we're going to do our best to take that on board. And if you can't implement something that's been suggested, then you can have the conversation around why that doesn't work or why that hasn't worked, but that you've still heard them. So I think that the big thing is ask your team the questions, get the feedback, get that honestly, and you can then make the decisions based on the data.
Yeah.
It sounds so simple, doesn't it? It sounds so simple, but we're seeing left, right, and centre how employees are being asked questions. They're not being asked, how do you feel about that? How do you feel about this change? Or how's that going to affect you? And then you often find that things happen and then people have something to say because they weren't asked in the first place. And I think that's what's happening a lot at the moment. Sorry, you want to say something, Abby?
Well, it was just, I guess, why easier said than done, it absolutely is. And I guess from my point of view, a lot of employees won't say how they feel because either they feel or know that their views won't be listened to properly, that perhaps it's just an exercise. So from that point of view, they think, well, why waste my breath because I've done it before and nothing ever happens or nothing ever changes. Or they feel that their leaders actually don't care. So I guess it's creating that space of safety and active listening, psychological safety, where people feel that they can open up and be heard and be acknowledged. And the biggest frustration that people get is, oh, the employees didn't fill out this survey, they didn't give that feedback, they didn't do that. The reason why they haven't done that is because they don't feel seen, heard, or valued, or feel that this is not going to get the results that they feel is actually needed. So they disengage with the process and don't share their actual thoughts and just say, yeah, everything's fine, and just bumble along because that's easier than trying to fight an uphill battle with somebody that's part of the problem. So
then,
yeah, that's the
Melissa,
big thing.
Yeah, no, I think it's really interesting. So then, Melissa, if there's one piece of advice or one small gesture you think we could give to managers then about engagement, what would that be?
It's so funny because when you ask this question to both of us, instantly I was like, listen to what people have to say, have those employee forums if you can have those, actually listen and action. And then Abby said that, and I was like laughing while she was saying it, because I was like, it's so true, and they go hand in hand. But I think being able to give employees, no matter where they are within the company, no matter where they are within their career and life cycle, the opportunity to bring forward ideas and invest their ideas or their thoughts into the vision and the future growth of the company, that really means then that they feel invested, and the engagement tends to follow with that. So a company I used to work for, which I would say is a really good example of one way they did it in a lot of ways, but on the intranet they had basically a submit a suggestion request,
I love
and
that.
anyone within the company, no matter who they were, cleaner, director, like everyone, would be able to create a suggestion. And if your suggestion was used, they actually had prizes, they had gift cards, they had different things that they could do. And it, for them, that was monetary, and that's great. I mean, it's big London corporate, but it doesn't have to be that monetary. Sometimes it's just the action that comes from your idea being listened to and being implemented, or even a quick email that was, Shivani had this incredible idea, and this is what we're now rolling out, and this is what's come of that single tiny seed of an idea, because you feel invested in the company's future. And I think that's so important, going that one step further.
And that's that recognition piece, isn't it? The
Yeah,
moment you see someone's name that you know, or your name in a company-wide email, you're going to go, I'm going to give my suggestion again. Or if that person
yeah,
can do it, I want, if that person's idea is being put forward and it's actually being listened to, because it's the difference between hearing your team and listening to your team, I think, a massive difference. You're going to feel compelled. Sorry, Abby, you want to say something?
No, yeah, you finished what you were saying, but I was just gonna add something onto the end of this point before we moved on. So
Yeah,
that
no, I
was
just think you'll feel compelled to put your idea forward if you're seeing your name in bright lights, and that recognition piece that we mentioned earlier, which is that 69% of employees said that they'd just work harder if they felt recognized, or if they were recognized. It's not even, doesn't have to be a big email to the whole company. It can just be, oh, that idea you had, we're gonna consider it. We liked it and we're gonna consider it. We might not move forward with it, but we're going to consider it. Oh my God, how amazing would that feel?
yeah.
That's recognition in itself. And I know I would feel really, really confident if I was a part of a really small or big business, but if my ideas were being heard, it would make me just want to do it again and again. So yeah, that was my final point.
And I guess to kind of elaborate on that, Melissa's fantastic example of where she's worked previously in that opportunity to speak up. But one of the things that we obviously love doing and talking about is businesses doing it well.
Yes.
Yeah.
And one of the fantastic initiatives that we've actually interviewed the business on it recently, and we've got some content coming out on that in and around the next few months and into next year, was an organization that is a professional services firm, and they have an employee board, and it was completely designed to hear people, give opportunities to the teams, speak up, to share ideas, to have that strategic input. And I went over to one of their offices in Leicester and I interviewed them all personally. And oh my goodness, the energy of the individuals in that room, the commitment and investment, the passion that these team members had about the business, about what they were talking about the initiatives and projects that they were working on and had worked on for a period of, I think, 12 months nearly at that point. It was just second to none. And the initiative's been running for quite a few years now within the business. And I think it's one organisation that really sets themselves apart from anyone else in their industry, but also in organisations in the UK in general. We don't see initiatives like this, and I'm really looking forward to that content coming out, because it's just so so focused on giving people voices, giving people seats at the table, and giving teams the opportunity to make real impact beyond a quick survey. You know, these people in these teams actually go and deliver initiatives within the business. They can go and invoke real change. They work with the strategic board. It's absolutely fantastic. So that was one initiative that I think, you know, every organisation should have in some capacity if you're at a certain size and structure. So I'm really looking forward to that coming out, because I think that's a really important initiative that doesn't cost anyone any money to do, but the value and the investment and the engagement that you get from things like that is just untapped, really, the potential for that.
It's a breath of fresh air, isn't it, to look through that content and see and listen to their actual genuine opinions on what they think that employee board has offered them. And imagine the personal development that these people are getting, as well as their daily tasks and their everyday role in that company. Imagine the personal development that they have to, you know, they're presenting back to the business. They're requesting and speaking about and advocating for all of the employees in the business. That takes guts, and that takes, you know, you got to step forward into that. You have to really be confident. And actually, if you're not, it's probably a really good time to build your confidence. And they're not only giving employees a voice. I think what they do really well is they're allowing people to grow. They're allowing people to flourish in what they're happy doing or what they're feeling like they want to, you know, their personal development path and that growth is amazing to see. So yeah, that's definitely coming out soon. This has been really good to talk about. I think in the next couple of months before Christmas, you guys will see a lot of examples of us doing it and how we feel like we do employee engagement here at Experity, which is what we promised to you at the beginning. But yeah, really good to talk about employee engagement, ladies. It's something that I think we're really strong on, and we really want to help businesses see the full potential in getting everyone really on board with a company's vision and a business's vision, because what you can get from it is untapped. Like Abby said, it's untapped. So we'll round things up there then, girls, if there's nothing else to say. And we will see everyone at Christmas.
Yeah.
See you later, guys.
See you soon.
Bye.